kind of a different question, but with you guys wrestling a Big Ten team, I know a few weeks ago that you said it was, I quote, BS that I was BS how some of the Big Ten teams are cooperating with you, or I mean not cooperating, but it's hard for them to schedule. Why do you feel like that is?
Oh, I don't know. I just think, I don't think so much wrestling us as it is spreading out and wrestling a lot of teams outside that conference. Keeps us healthy, keeps things moving in a good direction. Need some more of that, right? And so that was my concern is stepping outside the conference. They got a big conference, of course. When they start their conference dual meets, it's hard to wrestle anyone at that time. But early on, we need to try to create an atmosphere where we're wrestling against each other's conference. I mean, conferences wrestling different conferences, especially in the early times. So as you've seen our schedule, our first 4 dual meets outside of Wyoming. First, 3 of the 4 matches are outside our conference. EIAA, two teams from there, and Big Ten with Minnesota. And we'll end up having end up wrestling the Pac-12 this year with Oregon State. We'll end up wrestling again 2 more teams in the Big Ten with Michigan and Iowa. So I think it's just a healthy thing. Everybody needs to participate.
How important is it for the team to have a good competitive duel like this? This is probably the best team we faced. And of course, looking at their lineup, pretty solid. 25, ranked 4th. You look up and down their lineup, 41 is already up to number 3 in the country. That's pretty impressive. Then you see their number 57-pounder is Braden Lee is number 2, and then they're kind of like us, scattered. Several guys scattered from 10 higher, 10 through 25, and so. It's opportunity for us at several of these weights to move forward, and that's what we need to do. In the end, these are matches that you don't want to let go. You want to be wrestling your best, and I think with this team, with this full lineup, is a really good team.
What did you guys do with the break away from the duels that you've had a little bit here? Has that time off been beneficial for you guys?
I think so. The only thing you're ever really concerned with is maybe just keeping your weight in check and doing the proper things with your weight. We had some really good days of training, and a lot of them, right? And so we stayed here over the holidays, or over Thanksgiving, and felt like we continued to develop. And I think that we're hitting the best team we've wrestled all year. Yeah, so. We'll need our best effort.
Coach, obviously you have Caden Gefeller at 157 this year. He was at 149 last year. You redshirted Voinovich. Did you see that experience behind Gefeller help Voinovich at all? Obviously he's at a 3-0 start this year.
Victor, his exposure, I think last year learned a lot. He didn't sit idle. He traveled overseas and competed. He's had a little bit of a disappointment in some of his matches overseas. Got to wrestle in the scuffle last year, and I think he finished 3rd, I believe. I think you just kind of see match by match where he's going, and I'm real pleased with his effort in the wrestling room. That's where it starts. You may not see everything you want to see early on with these young guys, but I sure like what I see in the room with him. He's very consistent. Comes to train every day, and very seldom has an off day with his practices. And what I mean by off day, I'm not saying he doesn't get beat sometimes. I'm talking about he's ready to go. He's not moping around. I had a long day. I studied all day. I stayed up late at night. Whatever. I've heard that And if that's what he does, if he's done that, I don't ever see it, you know. And so those are good things. That's what's fun about the coaching part, is seeing that attitude daily.
Are there any specific ways you saw that year to learn behind G. Feller help Voinovich?
I don't know. You know, it's yeah. I mean, you know, what to do and sometimes what not to do. I think I think you always look at it and see that, hey, I could do that. I can do better than that, or and then you get a chance to do it, right? And you see, okay, this is hard. You know, this is tough, and so you know, I think Victor's his own guy and doesn't, I don't know, just kind of, G. Feller didn't place, right? So that's something we want. We want something better. Don't take anything from him, but he's here to for his an opportunity, his last opportunity, and I'm sure G. Feller's wanting to do more than what he's done.
Does Victor's progress impact anything with decisions you might make roster-wise at other
I
weights?
can't. Yeah, it's as we seen last year. Just a few injuries, and I think we wrestled 17 different people last year. I don't see any difference in what's going to happen. You try to keep anywhere from 16 to 18 guys ready to go, and so however it leads us, I'm not sure. I just tell you this, that we went from 16 to 18, and then we went to about 13, and we saw what happened, towards the end of the year. It didn't help us. We didn't have too many guys out and not enough to replace them with, and so you just keep everyone ready, and so and make decisions as you go along. Everybody wants to win. I think everybody on this team wants to win and wants to have a great season, and wherever you're at, you play your role, and by playing your role, you're supporting our team goals.
How are you feeling so far about those veterans and what they've done in terms of wrestling up a weight? A couple there in the middle and back end that have had to move up.
Who's on the back end?
Travis.
Oh, Travis, yeah. He didn't have to move up. It was his choice. He wanted to stay big and strong, and 65 was always a challenge for him. He was always meant to be big. His body was screaming, "Let me get big," and he had a lot of success at 65, but I think maybe last year's a little wore him down a little bit, and maybe the injury came because of that. But anyway, I don't really believe that, but it can happen. Yeah, I think you look at Wyatt. I think he's played an important role. He's been very competitive at the weight, and seems to enjoy eating 3 meals a day and not having to worry about things. I think if he was, if he wasn't having success, I think things would change pretty quickly. But by him having success, it's allowing us to do some things that maybe we can stretch it out and make decisions later on Wyatt and especially Wyatt.
What type of learning curve is there for guys that move up in weights because they're not used to whether it's their own body or the other guys, the strength or the size that they're going up against?
Well, a lot of times when you move up in weight, you feel the size immediately. I mean, it's, believe it or not, from 57 to 65, I mean, that's 8 pounds, and 8 pounds is a big difference. I mean, it's when you're only weighing 157 pounds, it's, you can feel the difference, right? You feel the strength and you feel the power, and I think for Wyatt, his adjustment has been that, he's really moving his feet well. He's done a nice job on top, and the the few guys that he's had that's been real competitive, he's done a real good job of managing his matches, you know, and maintaining leads, you know, and so Travis, I think he's had some nice leads as well, but he's given up some points in the third period, you know, and I think it's just going back to what do I do, you know, how do I stretch my scores out, and I need to learn how to do that at 184 pounds now, you know, rather than I'm in 184, I want to show them I have the success and I want to win matches, you know. Well, I think Travis, you know, you could stretch it a little bit more. You're that good, and it's a weight class that you're strong at, and there are not too many people stronger than you.
And in the lineup where the guys have moved up, they've met the guy that's moved down. I mean, at least in the last home duel, in that first home duel, that was a strong 3 weights.
Yeah, what 57, 65?
Well, I mean,
Or-
yeah, and then 84,
Yeah.
then 90, 97.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you know, you go back into Wyoming and you know, I'm not take anything away from our guys, you know, but there was backups that we competed against. There was guys that weighed 184 moved up to 97.
You're right.
You know, and so the level of competition, you know, was a lot different, you know, but you know, what you do like to see is if you're supposed to kick their butt, go do it.
Kick their butt.
And that's what they did. Yeah. And so I do give them credit. They didn't go out and, you know, and treat the match like, you know, I want to win, you know, for Serber especially, went out and got the pin first period. Hard to pin a guy in college. I mean, that's not easy to do.
So what will the learning curve be, especially maybe for those 3 guys with Minnesota?
Well, you don't know. I mean, really, I mean, just all I can say is this: is we've established some really good training over the last 2 weeks. It's not ideal that we haven't weighed in 2 weeks. I don't care for that, but I think we have been, for the majority of our guys, if not all of them, have been pretty disciplined with their weight. You know, Thanksgiving is a tricky day, man. I mean, there's been some bad experiences as a coach on Thanksgiving Day. You know, guys coming back and not looking good. You know,
You said when you were a wrestler, it wasn't a very fun
no,
day.
I've seen guys leave 3 pounds over on Wednesday before Thanksgiving and come back 20 over. I've seen it all. You know, I think they didn't share any of the turkey. Anyway, and we've done it. I think we've done a good job, and we prepared well. You know, yeah, like I said, I'm excited about the level of competition we're in. We got some guys hitting, you know, number 2, number 3, number 4 in the nation. Yeah, this is what we need. This is going to give us a real quick idea of where we need to go.
Coach, what about this year after Thanksgiving? I know you mentioned you had some stories. What was practice after Thanksgiving for this year's team?
You know, it was good and hard, and just we've been doing some things that we haven't done in the past as far as with our training. You know, and I think I said it, you know, early on. This season's going to be about development. I mean, we need to develop into better wrestlers, tougher wrestlers. You know, strong-minded wrestlers, and that development is a process, and we're taking that process very serious as we're moving forward. And so, I'm excited about what I've seen so far. Yeah.
What you said that there are some things you've done differently. What things are different in training now?
Well, there's some things you don't want to share, but
Sure. Yeah.
you know, just knowing that you're concerned of where you stand. You know, you finish 14th in the country last year, and you're like, okay, what's next, right? Well, I think everyone on our team has high hopes that what's next is going to be a lot better, you know, and that don't start, you know, in February. That starts now. You know, we have to get better. People have to get better, you know, and if you're not getting better, we got to ask why, and then make decisions based on that. So it's a little pressure. You know, there's nothing wrong with pressure. I mean, we have a tendency of trying to worry about how everyone feels, you know. Listen, I want you to feel good, but listen, I really don't care. We need to move in the direction we need to move in, and when we don't see that, we're gonna fire you up to do it, you know. And so that's development. If you don't develop, you're not going anywhere. I mean, we got to get better, and we are getting better.
Speaking of development, you know, speaking of development, are you concerned at all with Carter Young's development?
No, not at all. No. He gets another chance, number 3 in the country
Yeah.
this week, right? And so, no, I think with Carter, just things I've said, you know, is just he really works hard, has every good intentions. He shows up to practice. It's not like he shows up 10 minutes before. He's there early. You know, it's just kind of like I want to see just out of you. You know, do you ever cry, or do you ever say a bad word, or we, you know, not necessarily needs to do that stuff. I don't mean that. It just, I need some of that emotion, you know, and recognize how important this is to you. And sometimes it's the emotional part that really helps you develop, you know, like, I'm tired of this, you know, and you know, this is wrestling, you know, this is one-on-one, you know, it's me against you, it's personal, you know, when you beat me, you know, I want to see some of that. You know, everybody can work hard. There's a lot of guys that work hard. And sometimes they're just missing something. You know, what Carter needs to throw his emotions into this thing, and I think he'll take off. You know, make it personal when things happen. You know, and so no, he's development. He's better right now than he ever was last year. By no, I don't. His record doesn't show it, but there's no question about it. Yeah.
How do you get that out of him? Because he just seems like, I mean, he even commented last year that, you know, he's forgetful, or, you know, he's just kind of just this level-headed guy. How do you get those
Well, you just
emotions out of him?
you just keep asking about it. You just keep asking, you know, when is this going to be personal, you know? And so you just, you know, I like Carter a lot, you know. He's no disappointment with where he's at, right? Wrestled as a true freshman, came back, and he's had a lot of expectation. He had a lot, you know, and so I just, you know, patience is on our part first, right? But we got to see this from you. We got to see some things real important, because we'll be just, you know, flipping around, getting nothing done unless you take part in this.